Hello, welcome. One second. Welcome to building the Milton Valley Railroad. Things are going to be built, and a railroad is going to be railroaded. I know that railroading typically is a term used in games or stories where there is no agency on behalf of the player or the main character, which doesn't really apply in this case, but it is a railroad, so I suppose it should really be called railroading. I know you can't see the game yet. I know. So yes, we will build that. And road the rails. Ride the roads. One of those. So let's switch over. Here we are. So this is the area that we are working on. Last time we built basically this bit here. But built, I mean, made it look more than just tracks on grass. And so that is where we will continue. Question is, which part of this is where we will continue? One of the large areas that's going to take quite a bit to detail is the intermodal facility, because, well, I'll need to place lots of trailers and things like that. It's quite a large area to fill. Then after that, I've got to put some grass around some of these areas, and then start detailing some of these other areas here with barrels and boxes and rubbish and things like that, probably. Then after that, doing a little bit of work on the riverside, maybe, and we'll see how things go. So let's get to work on that. So for that, I'm going to go over to the other intermodal facility that we have currently on the map. Rubbish. The derelict barrels, not rubbish. I said derelict barrels and rubbish. Yes, I know I could just use the map, but I prefer to fly along here this time. Here we are, and looking at it, this seems a bit smaller than the other one, and even on this area, it kind of feels a bit empty still. Elisa! Hello, VGR, Elisa, welcome. Let's just double check this. Yes, that is the correct texture that I want to use. Want to show off the beautiful mountains? Yeah, I would too. Okay, so are these in... Okay, these begin with trailer. I think if I just start with the first instance of trailer and then go through the list, I think that's probably going to be a bit faster than just going around all the time. Place to land the yacht or stay in air? I think you can land. Let's see. How about over here? There's a nice large green area here that's not really been detailed yet. I think you can touch down here. Would the dirt airstrip work? Probably too small. Maybe a meadow? Oh, right, down here. Yes, because this is the area that we're actually going to be working in. But first, I'm going to use a little bit of this texture here. I want to see terrain roughness. Here, it's a little bit, a tiny little bit hilly, but this area here is quite flat, as you can see, there. This bit is quite flat, going all the way back to there. I think that should work. Okay, just a little bit of this texture around here, just to break up the pattern a bit. And yeah, this does feel quite large. I mean, maybe I'll make this little area back here a little bit smaller. Or maybe I'll put some administrative buildings or some stuff along here, so that it is more of a way of getting to the intermodal hub rather than actually a part of where the unloading and things will happen. Yeah, I'll try and land there. Train roughness levels nominal. All systems normal. Haha. Trying to land there. Got good luck, Captain. Haha. But if the soil can't hold the yacht, I'll stay in the air. I think that's a wise idea. I mean, if you wanted to, you could always land in the river. If it is a yacht, after all. Okay, that's not the right texture I wanted to use. I want to go back to this one, add a little bit more of it in some of the places near the edges, because those are quite easy to miss when you're just detailing with a bigger brush. Ready? Right, steady, steady. Sounds like a children's book. What do you mean? Steady, steady? Or good luck, Captain, you mean, probably. The yacht who was afraid of the river. Aww. Okay, let's start putting in some trailers and things like that. Actually, we've got a grain bin trailer. That's the sort of thing I wanted to look for over here. Although no, that looks much too modern. That does not fit. Contact. Seems like the yacht isn't sinking in the ground. Good. Or rather, how is the soil holding up? All right. Okay, so I want to have trailers along this edge here, so that when you're driving through here with a switcher or something, you're driving between the trailers. I think that's going to be quite fun. Badgerland. Blue Angel. Does that have... that's fine. And yes, I know some of the trailers might not be exactly period appropriate, but if we hop up to Silver Falls again, you'll see that the trailers that I'll use for the trains that are on the trailers are these ones. And I'm using these ones because this is one type of cargo, this is one product. I think it's called HP trailers or something like that. And they've got random textures on them, which is something that is more valuable to me than having them be exactly period appropriate trailers, but being either all the same trailer or having to make them use all sorts of different cargo types, because that wouldn't work for loading and unloading at industries unless I set up the industry to have all of them and then have each car only have a specific product, which that's just a lot of hassle, and it would make making sessions quite difficult, and for multiplayer sessions it would not really work as well either. So that's why I'm going to use this product, which means that I'm going to place down trailers that at least look similar to those that I'm using in the loads for the cars. A little bit sliding backwards at the landing, but it's expected, and that's okay. Yeah, it's fine then. Yes, HP trailer. Charles, if you got permission from the two authors, could you duplicate the HP trailer asset and swap out the mesh and textures of those of the period appropriate trailers? I mean, it's such an old asset, I doubt that I could contact the author of it, but even if I could, I don't know. It seems like quite a bit of time to invest in something that isn't that big of a deal. It's not that my yacht is afraid of the river. The river is too shallow for my yacht to stay on float line. Ah. I'm glad to hear that you have now thusly reclaimed your yacht's honor. No. Too long. Cargill. I mean, maybe, we'll see. CN intermodal. Conagra. That seems like it is an agricultural con that's going on there, or a scam. Elisa, I like how it. I like how it is like trailer McDonald's, and Charles just says no and then deleted it. Thanks. 1885. Ah, interesting. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of their work. $1865. Next year. Be in America. Interesting. This is a bit of a wobbly line like that, which I don't know how realistic it is. I'm just going to straighten those up a bit, because I think realistically the property lines and things like that would be drawn in a more straight fashion, at least in straight angles. And then maybe just a little bit of this over here, and then a little bit of the grass between this like that. I think that already looks a little bit better. Yeah, that looks better. And then I'm going to move these a little bit forward as well. And these bit longer ones I can have be a little bit further back, and that way it'll still line up roughly. Any cistern trailers too? Perhaps, we'll see. Although I'm not sure if those... Actually, they might. Why not? We'll see. Actually, that looks like that, that wavy metal structure of more modern containers, but so does that. I think that's fine. And if I change my mind, yeah, because I want to use some of these ones as well. If I change my mind in the future, I can easily replace them with a bulk asset update replace tool. Is there enough space? Yeah, one more here should be fine. And then I'll put in a fence around this bit, which I probably should do sooner rather than later. What kind of fence? Do I want this one? Bit of a lower one? Or do I want a bit of a taller one? Well, let's see. I might use gates for the railway as well. in which case the lower height would be better. Mr. Conductor 123, hello, welcome to the stream. How are things going? Also, is that a reference to Thomas and the Magic Railroad or to Shining Time Station or whatever that was called? Mr. Conductor, I remember you from Thomas and the Magic Railroad XD. Thomas and the Magic Railroad XD. Ah, yes. I remember that film quite well. A lot of the model work in that film is beautiful. Okay, let's find the gate and then place that there. So yes, this is the Milton Valley Railroad. You can see this is the map view of it. And all of this was built on stream except for that baseboard, which I built ahead of time because I wanted to get the asset palette right before the stream starts. So here we go. We've got mountains in the top. We've even got a hydroelectric power plant up here. Got a variety of different terrain styles up here. We've got some stuff over here as well, as it's just loading in. Yeah, so this is the mountainy bit. Yep. Some more mountains over here as well, as you can see. And then as we get further down here, we get into the lowlands, where we've got this big river coming through here. And then this is just basically flat terrain. The render distance isn't set too high right now because I'm streaming, but it looks a bit more impressive with a higher render distance. Yeah, we've got some sugarcane stuff back here with a sugarcane farm. And then this just continues on along here. And it'll split off in a second. Actually, it'll join together from the right, from a split off. Where to the right here, there's a branch that goes through a nice tunnel here. I really like how this turned out, by the way, with the rocks and everything around it. Which then continues off through here. I think there's Darth Vader or something over here in this little swamp area. Don't worry, the circles are just for making the circle tracks for the cement plant. Anyway, then this continues off along here to a little town that's back here. Which is kind of where the more open area would start, but this is where this branch ends. It'll just end in some portals. And then over on this branch, we've got the city, which isn't finished yet. As you can see, I've still got work to do over here. But we've got an industrial area over here with some street running and some stuff like that. And then over on this side, we have a fairly sizable yard with the city over there. And then the main line will continue off this way for a little bit until it gets to a terminus. Make a school, hello! I was just showing some aspects of the route because there was a newcomer in chat who I don't think had seen a lot of it. Let's have a look. Can I help you? You mean with building the route, or help me in what way? Or who do you mean? Help who? Ah, yes, I agree. Wow. Yeah. I have a few trains of Thomas. I have the Polar Express. Right. Also, did you see AI generated me? Yes, I did see. I'm not sure what you mean by AI generated though. I saw the post, but I'm not sure what to what extent AI generated, like what that means in that term, in that context. The tunnel is drop dead stunning. Oh, thanks. Although I think the original looks better. The AI really wants to make me brunette, but I'm looking good. Ah, I see. Who have the Soda Island in Trainz? So when I first started playing Trainz back in 2008 or something like that, one of my first projects that I started was building the island of Sodor by recreating scenes from the original model railway series. And by original, I mean, of course, original on film, like the ones that actually made it to the ones that everybody knows. And back then, it did turn out quite nice, I thought. It didn't look very realistic, but I think it captured the feeling quite nicely of the sets and the series. But I got a bit bored with that, and it became such a large route, and then I think some stuff corrupted as well, or something like that, I don't know. And then I tried again with some other things, and over the course of me playing Trainz, I have attempted recreating several of those scenes. Also, this trailer looks a little bit too large for the truck. Might put one of the free-off trailers in front of it. Yeah. However, none of them got finished. So, to answer your question, I do not have the island of Sodor in Trainz. However, I think Kango might have also recreated some things. Do we not have any of the free-off trailers along here? Huh. Interesting. Woo woo, Chattanooga! There you are. Yeah, I always think of that song whenever I hear the word Chattanooga. Well, that and the film Gone with the Wind, but I think primarily the song. Is that going to be good? I don't know, I'll lay out some of the other trucks around, or trailers around here first, and then I'll do that. Also, I do think I want a refueling point there for the trucks. Yes, building. Oh, you mean can help building. Thank you very much for the offer, but not on this route now. With Trainz, I am quite... because I've been playing Trainz for so long, I tend to have very specific ideas of what I want the routes to look like. And I have quite a specific style, I think, as well. And so I tend to make my routes alone. Plus, we've only just met. I basically put in a pic of me and set those AI loose. So you mean that it tried to recreate the character based on a photo that got provided? Ever heard of AI art? It's really good. I've seen some of it, like where it tried to recreate some photos, and I don't know, there's something about it that I don't like that much. It feels a bit, I don't know, it feels like something that, like, it looks like something that should have been created with emotion behind it, or emotional intent behind it. Like an art, like a painting or something, is designed, most of the time is designed to elicit an emotional response from the viewers. But an AI obviously can't do that. It can't put an emotional intent behind it, and yet it's trying to mimic that look. And to me, that just doesn't... It doesn't feel right. Probably also because then I think of in the future when these AI generated art pieces become more detailed or more structured in the way more similar to human created ones. Well, what if it gets to the point where you can't really tell the difference anymore? Then to me it would feel like if I look at a painting that I can't tell if it's been made by human or by AI, I don't know if I should feel open to the emotional response that I would get from it, because I don't know if one was intended to be gotten from it or if it's just an AI trying to trick me into having that response. So, I mean, aesthetically, yes, I've seen them. They are impressive, and even they are definitely interesting to look at. But I can't say that I like them that much as art. At least the ones I've seen. Model-made television series, yes. Well, some of them, I think. I built Sodor Island, but is corrupt. Aww. One thing I can suggest is when you're building a route, do you know how to export a route to a CDP file? Because you can export your route if you open up a new content manager window, go to custom, and then search for the name of your route and or session, like for example, Milton Valley Railroad. And actually I'm going to also change the category to be route. Well, actually, no. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to change the author to Paradise instead. Then there you can see I've got my route and my session. So then if you right click that, go to export to CDP, you can save that as an exported file. So like a backup. And then if the route should get corrupt, then you can just delete it in the content manager, drag the CDP into the content manager window, and it will have been restored. Yes, I learned that the hard way with corrupt routes as well. Can you believe it, Paradise? If you started playing Trainz in 2008, that means it was just a year before Thomas turned CGI. Hero of the Rails was released in 2009. Ooh. I grew up with the hit era of Thomas, and then 2 years later CGI happened. Or 3, I can't remember. Same here. This is not Eliza speaking, by the way. Yeah. I mean, the first few seasons of Thomas with the models was just beautiful. Also, the narrow gauge railway episodes, I used to love those because of, well, 1, the sets, and 2, the music. It just felt like whenever there was on the DVDs, it was a lot of the time it was like, okay, here are now maybe like 3 or 4 narrow gauge episodes in a row, and it always felt like this little hidden away secret place in the hills and mountains where it felt so far away from everything else, and from especially also since a lot of the engines were very wise and old themselves, like Skarloey, for example. And then whenever they interacted with the normal standard gauge railway, it was almost like this colliding of worlds that seemed so separate otherwise. So yeah, that's something I really liked about that. I also liked the sandstone arch on, I think, Duck's branch line, which actually looks quite similar to the English Riviera line that goes from Exeter, well, from Newton Abbot down to Paynton. Yeah, I've started my own take on Soda last year, based on the television series sets with a layout based on the Unlucky Ducks television series map. At the moment, I've got Ells Bridge, Henry's Tunnel, and I've got Ells Bridge, Henry's Tunnel, and the Ells Bridge. However, it's not planned to be released probably as it'll be using non-DLS assets. A pity. Yeah, you can say that. Hahaha. I was thinking of watching the Unlike Tugs map video. Kango got me to watch one, and yeah, it's quite good. Put a lot of effort into it, and you can tell that he clearly cares about what he's doing. He put a lot of time into it as well. AI art, all I can think about is Big Booba Victorian girls. I don't know how that would be connected with AI art, but okay. Ah yes, I still grew up watching the original series and the hit era, then CGI. I never watched CGI seasons, only the movies. Alright, so thoughts on Bois. Seasons of Thomas the Tank Engine. I could rant about that for hours, but I won't. Basically, I dislike it on a story level, I dislike it on a character level, I dislike it on a political level, propaganda, I dislike it on so many levels, and I dislike it because every, or almost every, episode of that I've watched has tainted the memory of the old quality things as well. So it's retroactively damaging my perception of the old things, because now when I go back and watch the old things, I also think of the new things, which I dislike. I could go into a lot of detail on that, but I think it's best if I don't at the moment. All I can say is they removed one of my two favorite characters of the show, like actually probably my most favorite, which is Edward, because Edward was always the kind one and the wise one, the one who didn't get pulled into the silly stuff, you know, the pranks and payback and all that sort of stuff that Thomas and all the rest got pulled into. He always seemed above that, and he had humility as well, and I always liked that about him. That's why Edward was my favorite character of that. And they just basically killed the character in favor for basically they killed him for political reasons, which I think is not very good on multiple levels. But enough about that. Unless you've just written thousands of messages which I'm going to read about it, in which case we will continue to speak about it, because I will be reading the messages about, you know how that works. As far as I know, seasons 17 to 21 were a lot better than 13 to 16. For 13 to 16, Sharon Miller was the head writer. Yeah. For 17 to 21, Andrew Branagh was. Misty Island was Miller too. I don't remember Emmy. Misty Island. No, Emmy. Not sure. Yeah, Blue Mountain. Oh, right. Blue Mountain Mystery was also written by Miller, but edited by Branagh. Although Blue Mountain Mystery, while I really don't like the Huge Empty Quarry set, I like the movie itself quite a lot. Yes. I mean, yeah, Blue Mountain Mystery, I feel the same. I like the story of it. But the set of the Blue Mountain Quarry is just so ugly. Like, I could and have done prettier stuff here in Trainz on this route. Yeah? If I go, like, it's, you know, remember how a few minutes ago I said about how I loved the narrow gauge railway stuff, because of how almost magical and hidden away in the mountains and hills and all that, and how it felt and how beautiful the sets were. Well, the Blue Mountain stuff, which is where they decided to contain all the narrow gauge stuff too for the CGI things, like all those CGI locos seem to now be only based in that area. It has huge empty spaces, flat-looking rock textures, and it's just on such a huge scale, with perfectly level ground, no clutter. It looks as though something that I could have done in Blender in like maybe 15 or 20 minutes. And then if you go over here and look at something like the gravel pit, yes, it's still quite flat here, but I've actually bothered to put texture detail in it and to put scenery elements in it, which is more than I can say for the Blue Mountain set. Also, you'll notice there's actual vegetation here, which is also something that is missing from the Blue Mountain set. So yes, I'm not a big fan of that. But the story, yeah, I did quite like the story with Luke and with the mysterious yellow engine. I also like that it highlighted that Victor was a narrow gauge engine, because that is something that I hadn't realized before I watched it, I don't think. So yeah, I did like those aspects of it. Yes, Charles, yes. Bremer was the best head writer. Yes, opinion. Little Western branch. But CGI. Soda is fictional, but basically contains its own variant of. Snaefell? Snaefell Mountain Railway. That is how it's pronounced. I have no idea. Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway. Tallyclin Railway. Yes. A few tiny gems, though most low effort, story and premise wise, and annoyingly simple storylines, barely continuity, and with little to heart. Yeah, and the Big World, Big Adventures film, I mean, when I watched that film, I pretty much, almost in every single scene, there was a thing that annoyed me about it. Or that I was like, oh, well, that's not quite right. Oh, what? That could have been done better. Well, that's not quite right. Like, for example, when Thomas goes to America, at first I was like, oh, they're actually going to show America in this. Oh, that's great. There's such rich history in terms of railroading there and how things are done differently there as opposed to the UK and all of those things. So then they go to America, and they find this old-timer locomotive, like from the Victorian era, like kind of Civil War era steam locomotive in America. And they put buffers on it. They put buffers on an American locomotive. I mean, that is such a disservice to the history of that, because back in those days, they had the link and pin coupler system where basically you had two chain links that crossed over each other, and then as they crossed over each other, you had to have a guy standing there to put a pin in those two links, which would then couple it together, which is a very dangerous job, which is why so many of those people lost fingers. And actually, I read an article that said that in that profession at the time, a common thing was that people would gauge how much experience someone has in that job by how many fingers they had left. And then because of that, a new way of linking together trains was invented, which is the knuckle coupler system, basically, where basically you have two hands, essentially, with a pin that's resting on top of the knuckle, on top of the coupler. So as the two couplers connect, the joints, well, basically it rotates, thus aligning the hole in the coupler with the pin on top, so that the pin automatically drops through. And that was an invention that a lot of the railroad companies didn't adopt at first. And it was only when they were being, I think they were being sued, although you should double check that. But it was only when it was more profitable, when they found out that it would be more profitable for them if the crews wouldn't lose that many fingers, basically, if it was safer for the crews, that's when they decided to suddenly all upgrade using the new system. And that's so different from the way it works in the UK, or at least it worked at those times, where you'd have the two buffers, where the buffers would push together, keeping a space between the two, where then you'd have a guy with a stick with a hook at the end to get the chain, put it over the hook. Yeah, so you wouldn't even have to go that far in, or if you did, you'd have the space of the buffers. So two very, very different systems, and with a very different history behind them. And especially those old locomotives from the Civil War era with the cow catchers in front, like those, or snow plows, or the cow catchers things, they had poles, because of course you couldn't connect them together with the big snowplow in front. So they had these poles that they would have to raise up and then go forward to couple onto a wagon with a pin. Yeah? So much interesting stuff there. And then I watched that, I was expecting at least something with a difference in coupler system or anything like that. And what did I get? I got the locomotive with just normal UK buffers and chain coupling system. Followed by Thomas going through a looping with the trucks following him, going on the ceiling with the centrifugal force, which, yes, I know doesn't really exist, but with the centrifugal force pushing him onto the inner layer of the looping so that it doesn't just fall out, which is how a roller coaster does it. So he's being pushed up against it with his trucks. But then the sacks that he's got in his trucks fall out of the trucks, even though they are going around with him, which means they would be under the same forces as the trucks. So there would have to either be a force that's acting only on the truck, pushing them into the curve of that arch, or a force acting on the sacks, which is counteracting the centrifugal force, neither of which is a possibility in the scene because you can see it, the sacks just fall out of it. And then on top of it, Thomas with the trucks goes around in time for the sacks to then land back in the trucks, which means that basically, yeah. Far gone are the days of the flying kipper starting in the docks at night with fog, with a low camera angle, having wheel slip because of the frigid night and the tracks being icy and things like that. Yeah. And that was only one instance. I mean, most of that film was like that for me. Like, for example, they get Thomas onto the ship and they keep him in steam. Like, they have a steam locomotive that is fully fired up with over 100 pounds of boiler pressure, like in steam, and they take that locomotive and put it on a ship with a voyage that will take days at the least, and they don't do that. And then to top of that, when he goes chasing after them, he doesn't just call ahead where the ship goes and to the port and say, actually, yeah, there's a locomotive on that ship. It shouldn't really be there. Could you stand that back? Yeah, fine. No, he doesn't do that. He takes 3 of his biggest engines, at least I think there were 3 of his biggest, like Gordon, I think, was one of them, like an express locomotive on a trip around the world to chase after him. That, I mean, when I watched that film, it was like every single scene was deliberately made to destroy what I liked about Thomas, the Thomas the Tank Engine, or Thomas and Friends. And then when the series got announced with the same name, I had little hope for it. I hope that you enjoyed my rant. I'm here multiple times a week. You can see the schedule in the schedule section. Yeah. But well, I suppose that is just indicative of the kind of children's stuff that's being made nowadays, which I could go off on another whole rant of how, especially if something is made for children, it needs to be of high quality, and it needs to be something that at least has some amount of beauty and to it, but I won't do that. Anyway, I watched the model era mostly. Good. And yeah, Edward and Henry being kicked for favor, two quite bland characters. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's another thing. Rebecca, like the character Rebecca, great locomotive. Such an interesting history with a locomotive, like with its chain-driven drive gear, and with the shape of it and why it has that shape, and so many things that Bullied put in there, in that design, and how it was an express locomotive, and in a time where express locomotives weren't really being built. This was after the war. After the war? I think after the war. And they went into none of that, literally. Okay, tiny little rant, hold on, 1 second. So they kicked out Edward and Henry because they wanted to have 2 more girl characters. I will point out, this is a franchise in which they continuously add dozens of new characters. They could have easily added just 2 more characters if they wanted to that. I won't even go into how just adding a character because of that character's gender is, by definition, opposed to what they say they were trying to do by doing that. Anyway, putting that aside, they made this female character, which they put in because they wanted to represent girl characters more in the show, and made the character's only real character trait, even though they had so much interesting stuff to play with, they made it wanting to help people. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to help people, of course. I mean, after all, I just said that Edward was one of my favorite characters because he was genuinely kind and wanted to help people. But the thing is, there are so many characters like that in Thomas. And that isn't the entire character, that's not the entire character of Edward. There's so much more to that because Edward is old. Edward has life experience and things like that. And they basically just threw so much of it away. And I need to fix this because the height isn't working. I might need to change the position of where the gate is. Hold on. Because I need this to go down a bit. Although I suppose that works, like this. Yeah, that's quite nice. So yeah. But again, they could have done so much with Rebecca. So much. Edward and Henry, may they rest in peace. God, Henry in CGI, all he does is scream. Oh yeah. Ian McHugh said, paraphrased, the old character, Henry and Edward, is still very much part of the show and will be driven around the island as always. Driving. Humbug. Bah humbug. Yes, Trainz. I could have, and have, done much nicer TTTE stats in Trainz than the ones in CGI era. Yes. And the thing is, this is happening runtime. Every single frame, this entire scene is all being re-rendered. if you're doing something pre-rendered, like a TV show, for example, about trains, then you can do so much because you don't even have to worry about performance in it. Actually, this is going to be a bit awkward with the gate. Actually, do I really need a gate there? No, I can leave it. Yeah, because that's not really a point that's going to be accessed much, because there aren't really many roads that are back here. Yes, Blue Mountain Quarry. Blah. Oh god, I got Paradise on our end. Yes, you did. I mean, sometimes I go off on rants about things like Doctor Who anyway, or Star Trek, but Thomas the Tank Engine is one that I don't go off on many times, but there you are. There were a few, and I repeat twice, few CGI episodes with narrow gauge engines outside of Bumg. There you go. Bew. Oh, that's the loco. Yeah. There's just so much wasted potential there. And it's the same with Doctor Who and Star Trek. Okay, now we're going to go off on... No, don't worry, we're not going to go off on a rant about those yet. We'll do that maybe in, I don't know, half an hour or so. We'll see. Ruined a perfectly good piece of history. Yeah. The 440 Civil War era train. Yes. But other than that, the model is so nicely made, yes. But they just never used the character. Not really. Probably 1850, hold on. I need to scroll up a bit. Probably 1850-ish or 1860s. Yeah. Like Civil War era, yeah. Made the US auto coupler. Yes. Definitely mid-late 1800s. Yes. Look, all I could say is I know more about Maine Central and MEC Railroad and the Boston Maine Railroad history. Great. And they gave the character hair, like a full-on mustache, which I guess alright, but bit odd. Yeah, I don't have that big of a problem with it if they had actually made the character interesting, but oh well. Because cool, Sharadice's reaction to Bawaba. And mine. Oh, is that a... Oh, I... There... Yes. Agreed. Bawaba, or Booba. Booba. It's not Buwaba, because that's putting an A in there that's not there. It's Booba. Yeah. So, Booba is basically, hey, look, kids, action. Don't think about it, just laugh along. Yeah. Look, countries other than the UK. Yes, and then they don't... It's like, okay, we're going to expand the area of Thomas to not just the UK. Because there's a whole world of railway history and culture that goes into those railways and the principles behind them. And there's so much to explore there. So great, let's explore some of that. And they basically just make it all stereotypes of those countries with boring stories and mostly boring characters and just nonsense. And most of it isn't even pretty. Right, yeah, I keep having to move these... Hold on, I keep having to move these hoppers around because they're just in the way. No, don't look at that reskinned Henry. It is an African locomotive. Believe us. Yeah, exactly. Should I say nope? The country is just basically just the first thought of the place. Yes. The stereotype of it. I mean... Yeah. It's like they were saying, okay, we've got an opportunity here to show some of the history and culture of these other countries to children who maybe have never even had any contact with that. And by contact, I include things about, like, through media and things like that. And so what do? They not only, I mean, throwing it away would be one thing, like just having it be boring. Yeah, that would just be throwing it away. But instead, they actively put in just stereotypes, which doesn't only throw it away, but it actively makes that stereotype potentially the first experience of a specific country's history and culture, that stereotype. And then, on top of that, one of the reasons they did that, expand it, is because they wanted to sell Thomas to those countries. I mean, I have difficulty thinking of a worse business model than that. Yeah. Unless, of course, I'm missing something obvious about that. In which case, if you know something more about that, which you may, I don't know, please do let me know. Because I would be interested to hear any defense of that. And by interested, I mean mildly interested. To be honest, even though from the way I talk about it, it sounds like I care about that new Thomas stuff, but honestly, it's more so that I care about the old things. And because of that, I've spoken so adamantly about the new. I don't actually really care about it that much. In Buba, Sir Pamat chased Thomas himself. In Mystial and Rescue, he sent 3 of his engines, including Gordon. I got them confused. Thank you very much. Yeah, I got them twisted around. But yeah, I agree. I know who would have an A1 Pacific type go to the Rusty Rails. What do you mean? No time indeed. Hello. You've joined us in a very interesting time of conversation about bad new Thomas the Tank Engine. Don't worry, we're doing some route building as well, when I get the chance. Hello. My class 230 project got some improvements. Ooh, yes, Trainz, I know. You can look in your Discord, Kango. That sounds interesting. Feel so bad for the people who worked on all the Boba locomotive models. So much effort went into the models and textures, face design, valve gear, and face rigging, and they used pretty much none of them ever. Yes, a lot of people put a lot of good work into that, and I think it does a disservice to them and their craft to misuse it so much. I think I'll increase the height of this a little bit. There we go, I think something like that. Too much. Oh right, yeah, because that, I see what the issue is. The issue is that this object is raised up a bit. That's what made the rest up here be too high as well. Go ahead and rant some more, Trainz. Trainz, yes. Oh, you want me to rant a bit more as well? Okay. Or they could have reintroduced older characters like Molly, but no. That's what happens when studios try to appeal to Gen Z. It always comes out crap. I mean, yeah, it's... I don't know. Not always. Not always. For example, with Star Trek, don't worry, I won't go too in-depth with this. with Star Trek, actually, do I want 2 gates here for this to go through? Is that really necessary? Probably, although maybe not. I mean, if they've got to switch points manually anyway, might as well. Anyway, although... Actually, no. I think a better way of doing it... Although, actually, no. I like the way the gate is there. I'm gonna try and do it. Yeah, I don't really like Discovery. Don't really like Star Trek Picard, honestly. It has some glaring issues. But the 2 animated series, Lower Decks and Prodigy, I actually found quite good. And those are aimed at least Prodigy. I don't know to what extent Lower Decks is, but Prodigy is definitely aimed at kids. And I actually thought it was quite good. By the way, great ship design for that. I love that ship. That's a nice ship. Lovely. Looks beautiful. Oh, there's a link to that. Thank you for posting that. I'll have a look. Ooh, that's nice. Well done. Good work. Sure it is. Even the simple character trait of being afraid of carriage washes would have been more interesting than nothing. What do you mean being afraid of carriage washes? Do you mean... you're speaking ironically, of course. I see. Now, where did I leave that large gate? Hold on. I want to find the gate first and then... here we go. That's the gate I wanted. Basically replaced Edward and Henry with a molded bread on wheels with a box on wheels. On wheels with box on wheels. I don't know. I mean, when you say molded bread, that is something vile, and I don't think the character is vile. I think that's going too far. But I do think it's a lot of wasted potential, and it came at a cost, which is the cost of the fan base for a lot of it, I believe. Because not many people that I know of actually like the new stuff. Yes, you won't see the change on the outside really, but rubber insulation and cab side window got remodeled. Runtime, metal, runtime. And some mapping changes to make the life of reskinners, mostly me to be honest, easier. Yeah. Yes, and they butchered Toby too in CGI. Oh yeah, Toby used to be another one. Toby used to be my other favorite character. Being wise and experienced and having a little bit of a trickstery side to him, but he always used to be wise. And in the CGI stuff, they just made him basically afraid and inexperienced in a lot of ways. Yes, and they butchered it, yes. Charles, Blue Mountain Quarry. Oh, Boston, Maine, and Quebec is what I think when I think of Bumqu. Booba? Probably not. Oh god. I guess with new countries come new sets and assets. Ugh. Do we just reuse the soda sets and 7 plank wagons? Yeah? Locals do? Yeah? Sure. Very nice. Yeah, honestly, I wish they had just cancelled Thomas Engine before. Booba. Better Parish, a hero, and Divalin, blah blah blah. Is that a thing you just made up? Better perish a hero than die a villain. Because that sounds like a thing you just made up. I know the sentiment of it. But still. Yes, Paradise. End Thomas the on a good note, and they go with Booba. Oops. There you go, you. Yeah. Thomas would not be a good Shanta in Romania. Oh, why not? Why would Thomas not be a good Shanta in Romania? Are the wagons too heavy for him, or what? Booba. There's no A in there. It's not big world and big adventures. They made India look like an absolute slum, goats on the tracks and stations, mud everywhere. Yeah. How is that going to appeal to people who live in that country? Mainly because he would really struggle. Well, thank you for the answer. Also, Paradise, rotate the gate, otherwise the gates open onto the tracks. Oh, this one. Yes, I think Thanks, that's a good catch. At least I believe this is the gate you meant. If this is not the gate you meant, then might have just rotated the wrong one. Also, that's odd. When you separate the tracks, it switches up the position of the tracks at objects like junctions. I mean, the other one you could have potentially meant is this one, but that one wouldn't matter. So I think it has to be that one you meant. They made China about pandas and Tai Chi. This is a train show, not a martial arts newsreel, of course. CGI went down in flames, model era is second, and the railway series is first. Exactly, Paradise. I didn't say that, Milk is Cool said that. Yeah, although the CGI before Booba and after Miller era had some gems in there, true. Yay, Star Trek time. Need to learn more about Star Trek. Star Trek. I mean, if you want to learn more about Star Trek, I can only suggest that you get in touch with Mike Myers. My best advice for both game and movie studios is to just ignore the R-word of this generation that will cancel literally anything over a minute detail. Yes, exactly. With Lower Decks and Prodigy, they cared about the established canon and respectfully built on top of it. True. Like, I really liked in Lower Decks how they... Because in The Next Generation, I'll actually get to some building while I speak about this. There was an episode called Samaritan Snare. Yes, I remember the episode name. Where they found this alien ship that had broken engines, and there were people on board who weren't the brightest. They seemed quite stupid, in fact. And they seemed utterly incapable of running, let alone repairing, a starship. So, what they did is they said, okay, we'll help fix your engines. So then they sent Geordi, the chief engineer, over, who promptly got captured by them. Because, after all, if they can't repair stuff themselves, they take people and things that will do the job for them. So they tried to steal him. Now, of course, they got him back. And that was the last we had seen of those people in any of the previous shows. What was their name again? I keep thinking Tellarite, but that's not right. What's their name? Hold on. 1 second. TNG. Samaritan Snare. Where is it? Packled, there we go. Packled, yes. The Packleds, of course. And that's pretty much all we'd seen of them. Then, Lower Decks did something interesting, which is they took the Pakleds and they made them interesting. They were still not the brightest, of course, but their strategy of taking advantage of other people lowering their guards because they think, oh, these people are stupid, actually paid off for them. And they got some quite dangerous ships out of the thing. Yes, they were Frankenstein ships, and by that I mean they were cobbled together from all sorts of technology, but they were actually capable of matching the Starfleet stuff. And I quite like that, because the TNG episode did portray them in that light. It's like, oh yes, they were stupid, but we were stupid because we let our guards down, but it's okay because they are stupid. And then the news show picked up on that and said, actually, that's a dangerous attitude that probably a lot of people have, and here we go, this is what it gets us. And then it ties into the Klingons as well, and we actually see a Vulcan ship for the first time since Star Trek Enterprise. And it ties into so many of those concepts, and it doesn't even put them in the limelight a lot of the time, which is another thing that I really like about it, because one thing is, like, there's this one part of one of the episodes where the Cerritos, the main ship, the hero ship, is under attack by a Pakled ship, and also a Pakled ship, and there's a Klingon ship. They're taking damage, things aren't going well, they're going to be destroyed, and there's this Vulcan ship which comes to the rescue. Now, a few interesting points there is that for quite a long time, the idea that Starfleet or the Federation has ships that are crewed by mainly one species is an old idea. Like in the original series, I think there was mention of it. And then in TNG, there was an exchange program with another Starfleet officer who was very, what's the episode called? A Matter of Honor, where this guy comes on board in an exchange program, and he is a Starfleet officer. I think Bentham, maybe? I don't know. Something. No, Bentham is from Voyager. I don't recall. Anyway. And he doesn't know the procedure on the Enterprise. His approach to things from a cultural perspective is so different than what anybody on the Enterprise does or approaches things from. And the episode doesn't go into detail. It doesn't explain it. But pretty much the only explanation I can think of is that in Starfleet or in the Federation, there are starships that are crewed mainly by one species so that it runs smoothly because of cultural differences. And then they have these exchange programs where members of those ships' crews go on to, for example, a mainly human-crewed ship like the Enterprise, and they to see how things are done there. And then that goes back to the Star Trek Enterprise as well, where the Vulcans, of course, the Federation didn't exist. So you'd had the Vulcans and you'd had the Andorians with their own unique ship designs that then helped out the Enterprise on occasion. And so when in Lower Decks, for the first time since Enterprise, they showed a Vulcan ship, and actually a Vulcan ship, like design-wise, and showed that as being a Federation ship, crewed mostly by Vulcans, basically confirming that theory that the fans had for a long time, that there must be certain ships that are crewed mainly by one species for cultural reasons, that was a huge thing for me, because it meant that the people who made it actually knew about the canon and they cared enough to build on it instead of taking away from it. And then, on top of that, the Vulcans on board the ship weren't written like robots, which a lot of the Vulcans tend to be. They were written like Vulcans. And one of them was, like, there was a thing where there was a minor show of emotion by her. Very minor thing, which was enough to get her kicked off the ship at the end. Like, there was a thing where she was working on a new shield modulation thing, basically a thing to improve the shields. And she was working on it too much. They said, okay, you're not meditating enough. You need to meditate more. So she was meditating, but then continued working on it, which isn't that logical of a thing. And there were tiny little things where she wasn't as disciplined as all the other Vulcans are. So then, in the climax, they've just come here to help fight on the side of the Cerritos. No, and they said that the chances of them surviving this are practically none. But they still came there and decided to defend the other Federation ship, knowing full well that they had next to no chance of winning at this. Which you might not think is logical, but for various reasons I do think it's logical, but I don't want to go into that because that would get too complicated. So then this Vulcan woman comes onto the bridge and she says, here are my shield modifications. We've got to try them. This is our only chance. And then the captain who has been very suspicious of her and criticizing of her, then it would have been so easy to write it as, no, that is stupid. You have not been acting logically. Your plan, we will never try your plan or anything like that, based on emotions. But no, he did the logical thing like a Vulcan and said, very well, implement them. Because they might work. And they did work. And then they did the logical thing again, which was they kicked her off the ship. Now you might think, why is that logical? You just saved all of them. Well, yes, but the thing is, she isn't as disciplined as the others, which means that there is friction there on the ship, and they can't afford that friction. Instead, they say that she would be better off serving on a human ship, for example, where she wouldn't cause that much trouble. And now you might say, well, they should let her stay on board, but that would be an emotional response. She saved all of us, so we should let her stay. That's an emotional response. But they didn't do that. So that was all done great. Then on top of that, you had the Klingon ship fighting on the side of the Peglids, and on that Klingon, which was, by the way, a very dishonorable thing, and so on that other ship, on the Klingon ship, they again followed canon, and one of the Klingons basically assassinated the captain, who was corrupt, which was in Klingon culture the honorable and correct thing to do. So he did that because the characters were written like Klingon warriors. And throughout the entire thing, two things. One, the lighting was such that you could actually see the ships, which is a bonus, which you would think should be a given, but in the recent Star Trek stuff, that really isn't, because for some reason the producers or directors or whoever, or art directors or whoever, really likes blackness and hiding everything in motion blur and darkness and only partial shots, not really showing pretty much anything. So you could actually see the ships, and they had a great music score underneath it, which was reminiscent of the older music scores. So that whole scene was only like maybe 2 minutes or something like that, 2 or 3 minutes. But it was just such a great scene, and it felt so good because that was a Star Trek thing which was made in modern era, in the modern times. So I think that saying that companies who are doing stuff for the new generation is just crap, like you said, while definitely true in most cases, not always, because that was a real gem. Anyway, back to Thomas the Tank Engine. See, I told you we'd get to it about a half an hour, the Star Trek rant. Also, I did rotate that, yes. My best advice for both game. Alright, that's. Yes, Lodex, Prodigy, built on it. You can't get cancelled if you don't care about being cancelled. Wink. I don't know. Alright, IDK. I don't know. Probably I don't know about the Buuba, but Miller era of Thomas. And Miller of Thomas. Who is older, Toby or Edward? I think Edward, probably, would be my guess. I think Edward, but I could be mistaken. Alright. Better die hero than live long enough to become the villain. Is that what it's based on? Oh, I see. Star Trek. Imagine Thomas in US. He would not be able to work because of his bell, whistle, and coupler. Yep. And the ultimate crossover Star Trek and Trek. Ha. Try this Ensign Mariner and Lieutenant. Hold on. One second. Lieutenant Boimler. Yes, Lodex. In my opinion, Gen Z, some of them are smart and the rest are stupid. I'm Gen Z and I'm down to earth. Oh yeah, I mean, I think it is dangerous to make broad claims like that. Yes, there are certain cultural trends which can be traced back to things like social media or other things that I won't mention. But the definition of smart and stupid is quite subjective in a lot of ways. So I can't necessarily agree with that statement, but I know what you mean. But I don't think it's that easy. I think that where your point of view that you're approaching it from has a certain ideal, and it's easy to say that something that doesn't match that ideal is stupid. Now, yes, in some cases, I absolutely agree, but I don't think that's necessarily that much different than what it was in previous times, only it's taking a different form, perhaps. Although there are other factors which would get into a much more complicated conversation that really just is too complicated for this. Ah, that's what you meant. In the episode. Good on you, Private. On the ground and stay there. Good. Ah, thanks, Gibber. Lost Stuff is there for those that care about it and spot it, but it doesn't always impose on the main plot. If I remember, isn't that a line from Transformers Dark Moon? No idea. They could fit a bell on him, like they did with Flying Scotsman. What are you saying, Private? Never mind. I didn't take that from nowhere. True. They fitted her with a different whistle, Canadian Pacific, I think, and they were in Canada. I think. Alright. They should have cancelled Star Trek Enterprise. They shouldn't have cancelled Star Trek Enterprise. Could have been so interesting how it continued, but yeah, Star Trek Enterprise was having issues because of how much money it cost, first of all, and the fact that they were already burned out, and I think Battlestar Galactica was on, and there were just issues with it. But yeah, I agree. No clue what's going on. It's about Star Trek. Oh, all I hear is a bunch of movie or show science stuff. Well, that's pretty much what I was talking about anyway. And how the two new animated shows respect the canon of the original series. I call that a nail movie. What do you mean? I don't know what you mean. All I hear is Falcon. I mean, Valvon. Right, that's how you type it, right? I have no idea. Like, why? It's an episode L to look of the person who literally saved you. What do you mean? Oh, you mean kick off the... you mean the Vulcan lady when she got kicked off the ship. But the thing is, she agreed with it, because it was the logical thing to do for the smooth operation of the ship. If you don't know Star Trek, it might seem unkind or rude, but it really isn't. Yes, seeing the hero should be a given. Yes, seeing the hero should be a given. Given. I thought you said goblin. Like with Discovery, is that a joke? Obscuring the hero ship in darkness so that the audience can't even see it. I guess the whole series has a lot more darker tone, but it really doesn't have to be literally dark, yeah. They didn't kick her out of Starfleet or anything, just from the ship, because it was logical. I don't know, I don't care, there we go. Right, I'm off, since I need to sleep. Yes, good night, thanks for stopping by. See you tomorrow, see you VGR, terminated, connection terminated. Elisa's yacht takes off and goes through a wormhole. Aw. What do you mean? Take a good look at Twitter and hell, even YouTube. I won't even talk about TikTok. Well, yes, but that is a very specific slice. If you look on those platforms, you are going to find things you're going to find people who are interested in those platforms. If you take that as the set of data by which you evaluate a generation, then all the people who aren't on that because they find it stupid, for example, wouldn't contribute to that. So you can see how that would be heavily slanted in a certain direction. Alright, thanks for coming. Bye-bye. Edward's older. Trend on TikTok, night quilt, chicken, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, I say blah, 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 not because of your comment, but because I don't really care about TikTok stuff. I thought Toby was older. Maybe Toby was older. I don't know. I thought it was Edward, but I don't know. That is hot take, but I want to get it off my chest. Some people should not have freedom of speech. You've got it off your chest, and let's leave it at that, because that is a very dicey topic that I don't want to get into at this point. Shar's VCR meant the humans who kicked the Vulcan off the ship, yeah. It wasn't humans who kicked the Vulcan off the ship. It was a Vulcan ship. It was other Vulcans who kicked their Vulcan crewmate off the ship and said, go work on a human ship, because it would be better for us, and it would be better for you, and it would be better for the humans because they would have the benefit of having you with them, and we know you're a good officer. Hero ship should be a given, I meant. Given. See, I don't know Star Trek, so yeah. Point of reference, yeah. Should I name this on YouTube? Oh, the Thomas the Tank Engine side rant with a mix of Star Trek. I mean, if I would be giving these streams, the Trainz streams, separate titles, then yeah, but I'm just numbering through the Milton Valley streams, so... It's been a while since we've had a stream where so much of it has been taken up with chat, where I've just been sitting here, not really building stuff. Welcome there. Toby was built in 1914. Then yeah, Edward's older. Oh, he looks older. He feels old. Yeah, in a good way. Right, so we've got a bit of time left. So what else does this area need? I mean, Does it really need that much? I guess over here we can have a little bit more. Yeah, I'll do that. Hold on. I want to go over to the refinery because there we had kind of a dirty grass area like that, which I think would look quite nice. It was built in 1870s, I think. Edwards class first batch were built in the 1890s. I was close. Yeah, close enough, I'd say. Yeah, because this area isn't really used that much, you'd expect a little bit of dirt and things to accumulate on there. Maybe a little bit over here as well. That's a bit too much over there. Maybe like this. But who knows, apparently not even the Thomas the Tank Engine fandom page knows when exactly it was built. Ah, well, there you go. There you go indeed. Bye-bye, there you go. Railway Series Lawbook. I've not read any Railway Series Lawbook. I was feeling quite a bit tired at the start of the stream, but that energetic conversation has actually given me a bit more energy now. If it was in there, I'm sure the fandom page would have featured the information in there, but I'm not sure. Never read it myself either, but I've not heard of it. But I have heard of it, sorry. Same with our Railway Series. Great to hear. Yeah, but I guess when the stream ends, the energy is probably gonna go away as well. Who knows? Actually, yeah, that looks quite nice with a kind of more dirt texture underneath there. Adds in a bit more detail. Maybe along here as well. Never end the stream. Never end the stream? I don't think that would be a good idea for a variety of reasons. One of which is, if I never end the stream, well, then you'd all be stuck here watching it forever as well. At least not till sunrise. I mean, if I wait until the sun rises before ending the stream, then either I would have to fall asleep with the stream still running, which I don't really want to do, or I would have to sleep afterwards. Yeah, and then I'll save and then I'll use a bit of the grass spline on there as well. I'm happy because I get to see Fox again. Oh, it's always nice when you get to see friends. Since I tested negative for COVID. Ah, I see. I think this area is really coming together. Maybe I could have some dumpsters or some containers or things like that over here as well, like I did with the parking area for the refinery. Dumpsters, very please. Okay. Dumpsters, very please, of course. So, want Trainz more Paradise? I don't know. I don't normally begin those rants with the intent of ranting behind it. There is an exception, yes, like Doctor Who, when I had just watched the new Doctor Who stuff and it was fresh in my mind already. But when there's a subject that I'm passionate about, then yes, I will speak passionately about that subject, as I'm sure you would as well. Although maybe not the same subjects, who knows. Yeah, we need a little bit more here. Ah, look at that. I think that looks really nice. Yeah, and that's also quite a useful connection across here. Ah, look at that. There isn't a neighborhood in the US of A that's complete without a dumpster. Okay, but this isn't a neighborhood. I was thinking maybe some of these assets. Skip, that's the word I was looking for. Actually, maybe we could have one of those over here as well, just kind of in the bushes a bit. Or district, for that matter. Robinson Peters, 1986. 1986, I say. Quite the vintage. Yeah, just something like that. That's not clipping, is it? No, good. I'll need a little bit more of the grass along here, because I forgot about this bit. I mean, if I wanted to go off another rant, I could go off on quite the rant about Star Trek Picard, Season 2 specifically. Because there is so much lost potential there, really, so much. And then there are so many points where it's like, why are you doing that? Because that just ruins everything. But anyway. Also, there is some really unclever storytelling, that very obvious plot devices that are put in place so that things in the plot can happen, and for no other reason, and they don't make any sense in the context of the show. But anyway, I mean, I could talk about it as a tangent, but I don't want people. But I don't want people to know. Only one that knows is my friend, and she likes to hear me talk about train stuff. So, even though she doesn't like trains, oh, I see. Well, whatever you prefer. It was meant to be Robertson, but hey, it's already established to be Robertson now, and I won't contradict canon. I mean, if it's a mistake, then you can correct mistakes. I mean, correcting mistakes in history is something popular, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on if it's actually a mistake or if it's just somebody wants to write a different history. Shadows, yeah, they should have gotten TNG writers the rights for Star Trek Picard. Right. Well... I'm not exactly sure who the writers of that are. They might have some of them on there. It's just... It suffers from a lot of the issues that are common in more modern fiction. Might solve a mystery or rewrite history. Might solve a mystery or rewrite history. Star Trek. We're back. Yo, sure. See you later. For sure. Also, it was strange to hear Picard swearing. Yeah. Also, season 1 as well. There was a thing where the the woman was speaking with a Starfleet higher up admiral, whatever, and the admiral woman gave a thing and says, "Here, take this." She immediately takes it and eats it. It's like a little tech thing. It's a thing that to make her. I think it was a thing to make her throw up. I don't remember. But like, take this could just be, here, take this, put it in your pocket. Anyway. And the fact that Picard couldn't get, like, Picard, the legendary captain and admiral, couldn't get transport off of Earth, which, by the way, I remind you, is at this point, at least as far as we had known before Star Trek Picard, as close to paradise as can be. Anyway. What did I come back to here? Some lady eating a brick. Not a brick. It's like a little tech prism thing. Hold on, maybe I can find an image. 1 second. 1 second. Dun, 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 dun. Not sure if I can find that. I think I saw can't find it now. Also, in one of the episodes, they just completely forget that they have a replicator. But anyway. So what else needs to go in here? Maybe not that much, because it doesn't have to be that full, honestly. Plus, I think a lot of what looks a bit empty now is because the shadows are off, and so it looks flatter and emptier. Also, it doesn't help that Star Trek Picard Season 2 made Picard into a hallucinating madman, basically, who was so incapable of... Well, not incapable, sorry. Who was so troubled by his childhood trauma that he would quite literally hallucinate. And that's retconning the character. I mean, that was just the... Anyway. I want a ship. Who are you? I'm Captain Jean-Luc Picard. I might have heard of that name before, but nah, it doesn't ring a bell, sorry. Sorry, we can't just give ships away to any captain. But it wasn't even... Never mind. I mean, on Earth, he's even got a chateau just for fun, which is good because that's how Earth works. You can just have that if you want it. Anyway. Yeah, that was odd. Wait, Shadows, you don't play with shaders on? What do you mean? Of course I play with shaders, otherwise you wouldn't be able to see anything. I don't play with shadows on when I live stream because that would just lag way too much. It's shadows, not shaders. Yes, we wouldn't see anything if shaders weren't. Yeah, true. Okay, so I think I'll just fill in some of these grassy areas with some of these longer grass lines for now. Also, one thing I have noticed in the more recent Star Trek things is that they take death very lightly. There's an action scene where our characters just they kill several people in the show, disintegrating them, shooting them, just faceless bad guys. They're wearing combat suits. And then afterwards, they completely forget about it. There is no remorse, no trauma from that, nothing. It's just an action piece and that is it. Comparing that to a TNG episode where Miles O'Brien talks about his experience when he was in the Cardassian War, which we didn't see, but he's basically a new character. Well, not a new character, but getting new characterization. He talks about how he was in the Cardassian War and how they were being attacked and he was in the trenches or something, and his phaser either got damaged or ran out of battery or something, and he took the phaser of his fellow officer. He took a phaser and shot, and he killed a man, because that phaser that he gotten was set to kill. And he talks about how that traumatized him, because even though he was his life was threatened, it was war, his life was threatened, they were being actively attacked by enemy soldiers, he still had his phaser on stun. And the fact that he killed someone completely by accident, in self-defense, in a wartime situation, traumatized him. That's the kind of characterization we get in TNG. Then fast forward to like Star Trek Picard, and it's like action scene, death, those people are shot, they're all dead, and there we go. Okay, now, back to the story. And you could cut all of that out and it would mean nothing. Anyway. I think that's probably enough about that. Unless Kango, you have some insights to share. That's what I meant. Shadows, I play with Shadows on, and I have an Apple laptop and it works fine. Yeah, I mean, when I'm... Well, this computer is from late 2015, plus it is running at a Retina resolution, plus I'm live streaming. So, yeah. I mean, when I'm not live streaming, I do tend to run it with Shadows on as well, but for live streams it's just a bit too laggy. Congrats. Yeah, with a lot of the new stuff, it's just like, well, guess they're dead now. Anyway, back to our mission. Yep. I mean, I know this isn't specifically new to TV or movies or anything like that, but it is new to Star Trek. And that is that killing as an idea, previously, there are some exceptions, yes, but as an idea previously in Star Trek has been seen as very real, and it hasn't been seen in a good light. And with modern Star Trek, at least with Picard and Discovery, it's portrayed as cool. And the idea of Star Trek, like back in the 60s, Gene Roddenberry's idea of Star Trek was a future in which humanity had grown beyond that. And there's even an episode in the original series where Kirk gets accused of being savage. And Kirk says that humanity is not savage. And then they say, oh, well, look at your history, look at your past, look at all the blood you've shed and all that. And then he says, we are, well, and then the guy says that humanity, we are killers. And that's the nature. And then Kirk has this really good speech about, yes, that might be true, but we have free will, and all it takes is to say, I won't kill today. Just today, that's all it takes. Knowing that I won't do that. And and I really like that. And that was back in the 60s. And then you look at modern stuff like TNG, well, not TNG, Picard I meant. You look at modern stuff like Star Trek Picard or Discovery, and it's almost, it is just so ironic, I find. Yeah. So we're talking about Star Trek still? Yep. Yes, true. So apparently season 3 of Star Trek Lower Decks is currently airing. Ah, that's nice. So will the MVR be on the DLS? The MVR will be up for payware on the Trainz store and on Steam when it's finished. Episode 2728 aired 2 days back on the 6th. And the last one will air in 5 days on the 13th. It'll be payware on Steam and on the N3V store when it's on. But the Hadden Caught Tramway will be freeware, and that will be released once I finished the last couple of sessions on the DLS, yes. There was a book I read years ago which briefly talked about bullet deadliness quotient, yes. Never sure how to pronounce that word when I see it written. In movies and dramatic television versus Rambo action. Alright, hello. Yes, welcome, Code Monkey. Hello, you caught us in the middle of a very interesting conversation about, well, firstly, Thomas the Tank Engine, then we briefly touched on Doctor Who, and now we're at Star Trek. And I actually managed to get a little bit of route building in between. Are you impressed? I know I am. Anyway, the book went on to blow up an oil rig, so that took a turn. How did a book cause an oil rig to explode? Yes, I'm joking. So how's it going? Do you mean Code Monkey? Probably mean Code Monkey. Actually, that I think I want to leave as it is. This area over here could use a bit more longer grass patches and things like that. Well, it was Thomas the Tank Engine Star Trek, Thomas the Tank Engine Star Trek. True. Yeah, impressed. Cue sitcom laughter. Ha ha ha. Nah, that was just one ha ha ha. If it were sitcom laughter, it would be a whole crowd of people laughing. Trying to get the size or the scale correct for this bit. Because on that side, it's a little bit further away from the track, so I don't really want that repeating pattern. But over here, it gets a bit closer, so you kind of have to reduce the scale a bit more over here. If a man can blow up an oil rig with a book, he might be clumsy enough to do it without needing the book. Good point. Unless the book is something like how blowing up oil rigs for dummies. Actually, over on this bit, I might have a little bit more of a kind of dirty area around, like a dirt area around here, considering that we do have the turntable and the water tower there. But yeah, I really like how this area is turning out. We've spent quite a few streams on here, and because we've missed so many streams on the MVR recently, it feels like such a long, well, an even longer time that I've been working on this area. Speaking of which, this Wednesday, well, this coming Wednesday, actually, no, it isn't Wednesday anymore, is it? No. Oh yeah, actually, that's perfect. Yeah, I was going to say we won't be able to do MVR, but no, MVR is on Thursdays now, so we will do an MVR stream. The Wednesday stream, which will be with Kango Fango and Emmy Chu, it'll be a multiplayer thing probably, will be on Friday for this week. and then after that it'll go back to Wednesday. There we go. Also, we're about to run out of time. According to that clock, we've already run out of time just now. So I'll get a nice thumbnail. You missed me placing some grass, basically. Let's see. Maybe something lower down might be nice. I'll read the rest of chat in a moment. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I don't know, yes. Maybe something like that. Right, bye-bye, make it school. Thanks for stopping by and thanks for sitting through the Star Trek talk, which, if you're not into Star Trek, I know can be a bit boring. Although I think that I hope that I explained enough so that you at least got what I was talking about, even if you don't, even if you're not familiar with Star Trek itself. Or Thomas the Tank Engine, for that matter. It was boring. Ah, I see. Yeah, if you don't really know Star Trek, I can see that. I know, I'm joking. I did read it correctly. Yeah, but thanks. Thanks, I appreciate that. But yeah, Kango, I could have easily misread that. You're right. I could have easily misread that. I think that's probably enough screenshots for now-ish. I'll take a couple more, or maybe like 1 or 2, or maybe 20 more, we'll see. Maybe one like that could be nice. Anyway, let's read a bit of chat. Quotient? Is it quotient? It's apparently pronounced quotient. Oh yeah, quotient. Quotient, yeah. Blowing a Ball Rigs 101, Pocket Edition. This coming Wednesday won't be a stream, instead it'll be on Friday. Yep, which clock do you trust? The biological one. The end of the stream, almost, yep. Wasn't, it scared me. These semi-trailers remind me of ... Quotient. Sentient quotient. Quotient? No easy run tracker. Quotient. Entry no. Yeah, I think the word quotient. Quotient? I think I'm confusing it with a different word, and that's why I'm having trouble pronouncing it. Oh yeah, they do look like that. Yeah, quotient. But you see, that doesn't sound right. Anyway. Oh, it was a song. I'm gonna listen to that afterwards, in that case. Biological one. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of another trailer. It was the Chloe delivery. Chloe? Why not Kiki? If you get that reference, then congratulations. You got a reference of a good film. Right. Yeah. Delivery. The Kiki's delivery. Anyway. Similar to quotient, I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought as well. Also, there's roadway in it. Sure. Chloe? Chloe? Kiki? Was it to do with delivery service? Maybe. Who knows? Right. Her friend? Can't remember the guy's name, but it sure sounded like Cole. If it sounded like Cole, then it might have been Cole. Honestly, it's been so long. Cole. Anyway, probably. Yeah, that. Anyway, thanks for watching. This live stream will, of course, be archived on YouTube. And good night. Bye-bye.